and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where it's our 1-year anniversary! That's right, everyone. I'm proud to announce that today, October 26th, marks the 1-year anniversary of Atop the Fourth Wall. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? Let's take a look.
Of my mind, misty watercolor memories of the way we were, scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind.
Good times. In honor of this occasion, we've got a couple of things lined up. First and foremost, we're widescreen now! Yeah, enjoy more of the futon, I guess. Oh, and the shadow cast by the light that's right there. Next up is that we get to take another look at one of the scariest parts of Spider-Man history, the Clone Saga! Now, a year ago, when I reviewed Spider-Man number 56, many of the people and that guy with the glasses were shaking their heads in confusion. Well, the thing is that my first video was actually part 3 of the review, the other 2 being text reviews, and it was in that first text review that I explained the Clone Saga. And that's right, it's time again for comic history you don't care about but need to know in order to understand this, also known as CHYDCABNTKIOTUT. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? In 1994, both Spider-Man and Marvel were in trouble. During the early years of the Dark Age of comics, it was believed that since older comics were worth so much money in the present, people could buy any comic book deemed a collector's item, and then they could save it and make oodles of money off of it. Much like the baseball card craze, that was complete bullcrap due to simple economics. Older comics, like the first appearance of Superman, were valuable because they were made in an era when comic books weren't printed in large numbers, and the few that were still in good condition were rare. Oh, and because it was Superman! If you print 500,000 copies of Blood Gun #1, it ain't gonna be worth diddly squat now or in 100 years. The point being, Marvel was in trouble and they were desperate for anything. Any story that might help them compete with DC, which had seen success with both the Death of Superman and Nightfall events for Superman and Batman, respectively. In Spider-Man's case, it was decided to kill a few birds with one stone. See, Spidey had been going through a rough time in his own books. After losing his best friend, facing off the insanity of Carnage, and learning that his long-thought-dead parents were alive, only to discover even later that they were actually robot duplicates — I know, comic books, remember? He goes kinda nuts and starts calling himself the Spider, trying to separate himself from his humanity. And fans were collectively scratching their heads and leaving the book in droves. What a shock. It was also decided that his marriage was making readers not connect with him, or some bullcrap like that, and that needed to go too. Here's a fun little piece of trivia for you. At the height of the Clone Saga, one of the ways proposed to finally end it was to have Mephisto be the one behind it all. But the writers and editors decided that that would be stupid, since Mephisto doesn't really belong in Spider-Man's universe. Hindsight's a bitch, ain't it? Anyway, the solution was that Peter's clone from a 1970s story was to come back. It was a simple 3-act story. The clone returns and causes some tension. It's revealed that the clone is the real Peter Parker, and the clone gets to swing around as Spidey for a short time. And then the original is revealed to actually have been the real one all along, and he comes back triumphantly. Maybe while getting divorced or something. I don't know so much about that part. But still, the idea was set forth and the stories began to play out. You know how I'll often complain about editors not letting writers do their job? Well, in this case, it was the marketing department of Marvel who made things worse. Marvel was in so much trouble financially that the marketing department had virtually all control over everything. As such, since this new Clone Saga was selling like mad, they insisted and ordered that the storyline be stretched. And stretched, and stretched like mad, even after the original people who had come up with the idea were no longer on it. The Clone Saga lasted about 3 years before it finally was put to rest, but by that point, no one cared anymore. It was a confusing mess of a storyline that everyone was happy to put behind them. And while I will say, in my humble opinion, that a lot of the early stories of the Clone Saga were actually pretty good, the storyline we're looking at today is universally considered some of its worst. So let's dig into Maximum Clonage! Whoa. It's year 2 now. I think it's high time we saw the full version of the theme song. Vincent, roll it!
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara sits down nonetheless and forces himself through it. A poorly written, ugly mess, but someone's gotta do it. And it's right about time he did. They made Watchmen without the slimy squid. And he'll have you know that that's pretty low, but not quite like the standards of the 90s kid. Setting ablaze crossovers, one-shots and tie-ins. Linkara stands in reality defiance atop the fourth wall, looking down on us all. Of course, don't you know anything about science? There would be better books on his show, but Quesada sold them to Mephisto, and now there's nothing left to do but share the scrapings at the bottom of the barrel with you. Linkara, he is a man punch. What's that on his arm? Linkara, can't seem to fix the continuity alarm. Linkara, rock and roll, insane, some fella in a tux. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara,
I think I'm a clone now. There's always two of me just a hanging around. I think I'm a clone now. 'Cause that's
Now, as a prologue to Maximum Clonage, there was an issue of New Warriors that set up some of the initial circumstances in it. But you know what? It's crap, and most of the plot elements introduced in it are going to be quickly forgotten, so I'm just going to skim it for this review. Remember at the end of Spider-Man number 56 how there was something inside of that pod? I reasoned that it was the Jackal's homemade butter, but actually it was another Peter Parker clone, and this one quickly degenerated into a shape-shifting killer called Spider-Side. Yes, they actually created a character called Spider-Side. You can see why this saga isn't remembered with fondness. In this prologue story, Spider-Side steals some chemicals. The real story starts with Maximum Clonage Alpha, which ironically also has plot points introduced and forgotten rather quickly. The cover is lazy in that it's just Spider-Man copied and pasted dozens of times, but with Kane and Scarlet Spider also in the exact same pose. Oh, and by the way, Kane is actually another failed Spider-Man clone. All of his powers are just exaggerated forms of Peter's own powers, which admittedly was kind of clever, but at the same time you have to ask yourself where the hell the Jackal found all the time to do all this junk. Also, the cover is holographic and shiny, which I admit for a gimmick to sell books does look cool. Anyway, the story begins with Spider-Side unleashing a virus that kills everyone in a town except him, the Jackal, and a single civilian. All in the span of 3 minutes, too! And a virus that effective and deadly doesn't spread beyond the town's limits because... And dear Lord, has the Jackal gotten worse. They're not even trying to hide the fact that he looks like the Joker, except with a haircut stolen from troll dolls. Over to Peter Parker, who's being emo because at this point in the Clone Saga, it's been decided that he's the clone, and that Scarlet Spider is the original. He wishes the rain could wash him away, could melt him into the cold gray stone of his silent companions. Wait a minute, it's acid rain! It is melting him! Ah! After going through some lengthy flashbacks to every recent event in his life, we find the Scarlet Spider swinging around being equally emo because he lost 5 years of his life. And here's another flaw evident in the Clone Saga. Constant, grating, irritating rambles from either Peter Parker or Ben Reilly about being a clone. Look, I can see this kind of crap lasting for a few issues, maybe one storyline, but like the saga itself, it just dragged! Hate to break it to you, pals, but, well, you're a clone? Boo friggin' who! You've both got memories and lives, even after your conception that the other person didn't have, and spending all your time being whiny about it isn't gonna do you any good. There are plenty of people in the world who have it worse off than either of you. And by the way, they never stop their narration for the entire story. Over to Mary Jane, who actually has legitimate things to worry about since she's pregnant via Peter, and she doesn't know if the fact that he's a clone will have an effect on the baby. However, here comes the Scarlet Spider to make a soliloquy about how he doesn't want to take over Peter's life and that he wants to help him. And scene over. Back to, you know, the plot, as a hazmat team arrives in the town with all the dead people. The Jackal is listening in on their communications and learns of the survivor, telling Spider-Side to return them to the town. And then over to the New Warriors, who are basically shoehorned into this event for no legitimate reason. And then over to Kane, who's being transferred to another cell by people wearing the stupidest looking guard uniforms I've ever seen. I mean, what the hell are they wearing? This is the high-tech security uniform of a prison? A ridiculous red visor and a green jumpsuit? It's not even like they're heavily armored or anything. It looks like they're getting ready for a ski trip. So yeah, Kane breaks out because he has a vision of Mary Jane dying that, much like most everything else in the Clone Saga, will amount to nothing. Back to Spider-Side, who was sent by the Jackal to retrieve the survivor to find out why he was immune to the virus. The Jackal said, "Be swift, be silent, and most importantly, morph into something really cool." Alright, so let's see what Spider-Side's awesome costume is, and... Wow, that's really what you're going for in terms of cool, huh? Roided up muscles, bell bottoms, and a face with a smiley attached to it. And also his definition of cool includes bland beyond recognition. I guess the Jackal left his petri dish out in the sun too long. So the New Warriors arrive, Scarlet Spider shows up too thanks to a postcard he got earlier, don't ask, and of course this being comic books, the two end up fighting over a misunderstanding. Back to Mary Jane and, oh, for the love of crap comic, pick someone to focus on and stick with it! Why does life have to be so complicated? I see the way you're acting like you're somebody else gets me frustrated! So, more fight scene, more Peter being emo. This is padding, this is padding. So the New Warriors figure out Scarlet's not a bad guy and they all end up fighting Spider-Side. Padding, 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 padding. So Spider-Side gets away and the New Warriors disappear from the plot. Back over to Spider-Man, where the Jackal has found him. Upon seeing him, Spidey of course erupts into an heroic spaz attack. And then promptly gets smacked down with one punch. Because you're a clown, Peter! Nothing but a clown! A clown that doesn't belong in this world of flawed humans! A clown that doesn't belong anywhere! There's a place for us. Or you could join me! Help me! Be with others like yourself! I call it Clone College! Together, working side by side, we could bring the world genetic perfection through cloning!
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
I'm sorry, but I thought clones either had weaker genetic material or the exact same genetic material. Once you start deviating from the norm, it's not exactly cloning anymore, it's eugenics and... Hey, wait a second. The Jackal wants to create genetic perfection in the world. It's the 1990s.
The mid-1990s was the era of your last so-called World War. The Eugenics Wars.
Oh, the Clone Saga is the eugenics war that Star Trek was talking about. Huh. Knowing what I know about what's going to happen in the Clone Saga, that's kind of a big letdown. So yeah, Peter's invited to join the Jackal, but we all know Peter. He would never... reach out and shake the Jackal's hand, joining him. Huh. So I guess him making deals with evil people actually has some precedent. Next up is Web of Spider-Man number 127, with a cover featuring Spidey against the Punisher. Wait, this is the Clone Saga, right? Why the hell are we suddenly bringing the Punisher into this? Anyway, cover's okay, but a little stupid because bullets are apparently flying out of the Punisher's head and chest, but whatever. So we're still on the rooftop, which of course looks nothing like what we saw in the previous issue. The Jackal chooses this moment, after shaking Peter's hand, to do a little dance. Do a little dance! Make a little clown! Get down tonight! So the Punisher is trying to assassinate the Jackal for some reason, while at the same time a SWAT team shows up demanding they surrender. However, it's not the SWAT team, but the Punisher who yells out that someone is in his way. Blast it, Spider-Man! Get out of the way! Don't make me shoot him through you! I can, you know! I totally can! What, you don't believe me when I say I can? You don't think I can? Nobody thinks I'm cool anymore! To escape the SWAT team, Spidey grabs the Jackal and they leap off the building. So long, suckers! See you in the genetically perfected future! Man, this is a hoot! I think I can see my house from here! The man responsible for our perfect genetic future, ladies and gentlemen. All the wit and personality of a 9-year-old. Anyway, we cut to the Parkers' house in Queens, where Mary Jane and her aunt buy Die Hard's crotch! What the hell is going on with that lady's face? Mary Jane, save me! Oh God, it's infected you too! You two look like Bratz dolls if they grew up! Next scene! Next scene! You are the new humanity! New humanity with Kung Fu grip! So yeah, Spidey is carrying the Jackal around like this before they sit down in the middle of the street in broad daylight to continue talking about the Jackal's little cloning plans. And wouldn't you know it, the Punisher somehow is able to keep up with the two and starts shooting. The Jackal gets shot, hooray! And of course, like anyone who gets shot unexpectedly, starts to monologue. Spidey then suddenly leaps at the Punisher and calls him a lunatic! Gee, Spidey, mood swing much? Not 10 minutes ago, you were ready to kill the Jackal yourself! I think the bump you took on your noggin knocked a few screws loose, dude! Spidey is convinced that the Jackal was on the level since he tried to take the bullets for him. Why was the Punisher even shooting at Spidey? And he takes the Jackal away, hoping to get him some medical attention. They go back to the Jackal's lab, and the Jackal is put into some sort of cellular regeneration pod. I wanted mankind to benefit from my work. Tell me you'll try, Peter. Tell me you'll help them. I will, sir. Okay, 1 year ago, we looked at Spider-Man number 56. So our brave humanitarian, the Jackal, did what in that story? Well, let's see. He grew a Gwen Stacy clone to screw with Peter's head before letting it melt into a puddle of goo. He screwed around with Ben Reilly's mind, beat the two up, set up his laboratory to explode, and then continually laughed and laughed while telling them that either one of them is a clone. And Spidey buys this bullcrap instantly? Oh, and in case you're wondering if this is just a simple case of the writers trying to make a sympathetic character out of the Jackal, yeah, right in the next issue we see that it was all a trick and that the bullets didn't even hurt him at all. Which brings us to Part 3, Amazing Spider-Man number 404. The cover is dull and has the two swapping punches that for some reason are missing despite the fact that they're rubbing up against each other. Unsurprisingly, it opens with Peter sulking about the fact that he's a clone. Dear Lord, Spidey could give Shinji Ikari lessons in being a whiny bitch. Scarlet Spider arrives, having followed a lead on the Jackal. He tries to be nice to Pete, telling him he knows what he's going through, but Peter, apparently suffering from brain damage, suddenly goes nuts and punches him. Ben continues to try to reach out to him, but since Peter is a dick in this and doesn't remember how he was nice to Ben when they thought he was the clone, just walks off to continue sulking. Spider-Side arrives. They fight for a bit while Kane watches. There's some sort of convention for Spider-Man clones being held right next door? How the hell does everybody know how to come here at the same time? Anyway, Kane pulls the Jackal out of the regeneration pod to rant at him a bit, but the Jackal just smacks him around before once again offering, well...
And together, we can rule the galaxy.
It's not like the Jackal's some kind of charismatic cult leader here. Why the hell is everybody listening to him?
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
Anyway, Scarlet Spider breaks free and all the clones are suddenly gathered in the same room together. Ah, good, now we'll find out which of them murdered the rich host of the party. The Jackal begins moo-ha-haing about how with Peter's blood, he can perfect the cloning process and make everybody hunky-dory and genetically perfect, whatever the hell that means. However, unlike everyone else, the Scarlet Spider is not a moron, and he punches his lights out and starts beating him up. Kane and Peter intervene to protect the Jackal while Spider-Side walks off. He's confronted by Scryer, the other mysterious fellow who's been a bit player throughout the entire Clone Saga. His name is Scryer, a being more mystery than man, an ageless, timeless entity whose purpose, if revealed, would be unfathomable to the mortal mind. Yeah, it turns out that Scryer is actually many people dressed the exact same way who have simple magic tricks. As I said, hindsight is a bitch. Scryer just touches Spider-Side's head. I heal you in the name of vagueness. I know. It's all so clear. I'm glad it's clear to somebody, because frankly I'm starting to get confused. Anyway, Spider-Side rejoins the others and Jackal orders him to kill Kane. But you said you were gonna make me perfect! Stop the degeneration! Why would I do that? You're a worthless walking heap of genetic trash. No, you can't do this! I believed you! I trusted you! Gee, it's almost as if the villainous, psychotic, manipulative, crazy green scientist man who calls himself the Jackal was lying or something! Who would have guessed? Of course, everybody just stands there like they're not sure if this was in the script or not before Kane walks off for no discernible reason. Is it me, or was he, like, a major downer? Once again, folks, the man who will bring about genetic perfection in the world. Ben starts to feel woozy, the result of a drug that the Jackal used on him during the fight. They drag Ben into a big ominous chamber and toss him in, while Peter starts to think that maybe this wasn't his best move. Can I trust a Jackal? I don't know, Peter. Maybe I should hit you with my clue stick! As the Scarlet Spider regains his senses, he looks up to behold hundreds of Spider-Man clones leaping at him. And it's at this point, the halfway marker for this little story, where we realize just how goofy this whole thing has gotten. Part 4 is Spider-Man number 61, and the cover is just as silly as that last page, with hundreds of Spider-Men attacking our man Ben Reilly. What gets me about this cover is that the artist took the time to detail the web patterns on every one of these Spider-Men except for like 2 or 3. And I wouldn't mind if he was in the background, but look at that! He's right there! How do you do it on all those other ones but miss one so prominent on the cover? You wake up in the morning and think, things could be worse. I mean, it's not like I have to fight hundreds of clones of me today. That'd just be downright stupid. This is just... I'm sorry, folks, but I can't keep a straight face at this. The sheer number of illogical circumstances behind all of this. Where the hell did the Jackal find time to clone hundreds of Peter Parkers, dress them all, and equip them with web shooters, somehow make them all work for him, despite all other clones we've seen showing plenty of resistance to him, put them all in the same room, and then have them just sit on their asses until the Jackal tosses somebody in for them to play with? I mean, even if we forgive the idea of these clones growing up faster than regular people in clone pods or whatever, how the hell did he get enough pods for them all to come out at the same time? And you can't tell me that they did it like 100 at a time. How is he feeding them? This was, honest to God, the Spider-Man writers and editors' attempt at making a serious story. But then they throw in hundreds of Spider-Man clones for no other reason than to try to justify the idiotic title of this story arc. I mean, you can't even hide behind the joking nature of something like Godzilla vs. Barkley, or even, God help me, Adventures of the Kool-Aid Man. This was a mainstream publisher trying to tell an epic story about a hero and his identity and revitalize their franchise, but in the end we get the height of laziness, stupidity, and downright what-the-hellery. So anyway, back to what passes for a story. Mary Jane comes home to find Kane waiting for her on her couch. What are you doing here?
Well, I was gonna go to Mary Marvel's place, but Darkseid is already crashing on her couch.
By the way, despite all of these events transpiring over a single day, Mary Jane is now sporting her third outfit. And how much do you want to bet it won't be her last? Back over to the loser brigade of clones, the Jackal tries to reassure Peter about the choices he's made. And no matter what happens in the future, you'll always have me, son. Yes, I'm sure it's a great comfort to know that he'll always have your terrible jokes, your plans for world domination, and your hundreds of Spider-Man clones. The Jackal tells Peter that he needs to go and get the Gwen Stacy clone, yeah, the one from the original Clone Saga in the 1970s, and bring her there. Why? Well, forgiving the Jackal's bullcrap story, the truth is the writers wanted to get rid of her since, believe it or not, Maximum Clonage was an attempt to end the Clone Saga and tie up all the loose ends, and the Gwen Stacy clone's a really big friggin' loose end. And enjoy as that try falls harder and faster than a piano with anvils and elephants tied to it. Back over to Kane at MJ, where Kane gives his backstory, and he tells her that Peter has joined the Jackal. Oh, and it turns out the Jackal has a room of Gwen Stacy clones and pods who immediately degenerate into piles of goo when he opens their doors. They're also fully clothed for some reason. Why does he have this? I don't know. Maybe he sells the clone goo as silly putty to finance this huge facility. Thanks to a pep talk from Mary Jane, Kane arrives to help Ben fight off the hundreds of spider clones, even acknowledging him as a brother. And most especially, he says that he won't kill any of the clones. Which is why immediately in the next issue, we see that he starts trying to kill them, not giving a crap about their lives. Hello? Editor? Is there anyone around who can keep the plot points straight from issue to issue? Anyway, Part 5 is Spectacular Spider-Man number 227, promising us the death of Kane, who's scowling like the 90s character that he is. And bing! New outfit for Mary Jane. She activates all of Peter's spider tracers at once to send out a signal to get his attention. Speaking of, he found the Gwen Stacy clone and is carrying her back. And she's being quite calm about this whole thing, but whatever. Spidey gets the signal and rides off to try to reach Mary Jane. Over to the Jackal, who's complaining about that one guy from like 4 issues ago that survived the town massacre. Not that he will play a role in the story one iota, or in fact anything related to the Clone Saga. All it does is allow him to whine that he can't let there be survivors, since otherwise, how else is he going to, you guessed it, take over the world?
Of course!
Over to the cluster crap of clone combat. I love alliteration. The Scarlet Spider is wondering why none of the clones have said a single word since the fight started. All of a sudden, the clones start to decompose. In fact, their clothes are decomposing as well. Wait, you can clone fabric too? How the hell does that work?
The Jackal must have popped them out of the lab before they were fully baked.
Fully baked? What, are clones made out of cookie dough? You just slap a cookie cutter on a big mass of flesh, pop them in an easy bake oven, and wait 2 hours? While Scarlet Spider stupidly tries to convince the easy bake clones that they don't have to fight and die and that they can still play the piano, we cut back over to Peter, the Gwen Stacy clone, and Mary Jane all meeting up. They're all nice and friendly with each other, and it's stupid and I don't care, so moving on. Kane and Scarlet Spider crash through a glass ceiling onto the Jackal and... Wait, what? Weren't they in a chamber right next to the... Ugh, why do I bother? Oh, look, it's the New Warriors! Their scene is completely pointless. Next! Spider-Side accesses one of the Jackal's computers to send data to Scryer, but the Jackal finds him. When he learns what Spider-Side is doing, the Jackal tries to trigger his degeneration, but it turns out Scryer removed it. Anyway, back to Scarlet Spider. Yes! Say yes to life! Are we in a drug PSA now? What the hell? But yeah, the clones degenerate into a massive puddle of goo. Anyway, Kane interferes with the fight between Spider-Side and Jackal, and Spider-Side finally puts Kane out of our misery, impaling him with a technological doodad. The Jackal runs off while the puddle of clone goo suddenly forms into a big gooey monster to fight the Scarlet Spider. Alrighty, time for the final issue, Maximum Clonage Omega. And here's our cover, and good God, that's hideous. The Jackal looks like some deformed Keebler elf, and I have no idea what the hell is going on. No holofoil cover is worth this vomited coloring. If you'll indulge a brief aside, as I stated before, the intention of Maximum Clonage was to finally bring an end to the Clone Saga. According to the behind-the-scenes info of the 36-part essay, Life of Riley, which chronicles the entirety of the Clone Saga, and it's all online, as well as the behind-the-scenes stuff going on at Marvel, the story was given to the then inexperienced writer Tom Lyle, and they knew they were in trouble. He wasn't a particularly bad writer, it's just he wasn't up to the task of putting an end to all this nonsense. As a result, this issue was constantly rewritten and, well, let's just take a look. The Scarlet Spider fights a puddle of goo that used to be a whole bunch of clones. The stuff of legend, folks. The Jackal suddenly reveals that, "I'm off to kill all of your old pals at the Daily Bugle. Taking over the media is such hard work." My God, he's going off to kill all the staff of the Daily Bugle! Wait, why? Everyone at the Bugle, the human race, they're all in danger from the Jackal's plan to wipe them all out with the carrion virus and replace them all with a world of clones the Jackal would rule over. Wasn't the original Clone Saga just a science professor is in love with Gwen Stacy, clones her because she's dead, tries to kill Peter Parker, but then sacrifices himself when he realizes how evil he was? When did world domination enter this whole thing? A nightmare of a world of only clones. It seems that we have a new evil plan to add to our ever-growing list of dumb plans. As you'll recall, the other three were twin clones of Hitler, make Nightcrawler the Pope, and Wonder Girl acting as ambassador between the President and Queen Hippolobotomy. And now we have kill everybody and replace them with clones. Why? I don't know, maybe clones are tax deductible or something. So the Scarlet Spider gets away from the massive goo pile, which I guess just gives up after a while and dies. He swings off to stop the evil plans of the Jackal. Meanwhile, Mary Jane is still wearing the same sweater, but Gwen Stacy is now sporting a new outfit. And her eyes have grown to encompass half of her head. MJ asks Peter to stay with her, but Gwen tells him she doesn't belong with her, and MJ can't understand them, and wait, last issue MJ and Gwen were all huggy and crap, and now they're all, "You can't understand me?" Oh, screw it. Point is, they're idiots and they leave. Over at a news station, we learn that the Jackal has an army of Jacks now. You know, those annoying little mini Jackals we saw from Spider-Man number 56. Where did they come from? Who the hell knows? And apparently he has like hundreds of the things because he says he's sending them to every TV station in the tri-state area, killing all of the newscasters and staff and replacing them with clones. In the interest of fairness, controlling the flow of information, smart move by the Jackal. Also in the interest of fairness, this is not a plot hole, but a plot bottomless pit. The sheer number of questions this raises is simply astronomical. At the Daily Bugle, the Jackal is setting up his bomb, and he has apparently mutated into a bunny rabbit in these panels, considering how friggin' huge his ears are. I should note that this issue required the services of at least 9 artists to get this thing out, working on the breakdowns and finishes in an attempt to save it, and it still looks like crap. And there's a whole frigging ton of story here, but this video has gone way too long already, so I'm gonna skip a whole bunch here and just show the highlights of stupidity. Scryer, if you're so powerful, just kill the Jackal. Scarlet Spider, it's a web line, not a cat's cradle. Mary Jane, what the hell is up with your face? 2-page spread that needs me to flip the thing on its side. I hate this comic. Think you'll help these people as much as you helped Gwen Stacy? So after all these years, that's what this is all about. The clones, the virus bomb, all because you once loved Gwen. No, moron, it's because he's nuttier than peanut M&Ms. Spider-Side falls to his death despite the fact that he can shapeshift into water. I really hate this comic. Blah, blah, blah. Jackal monologuing, trying to fill in plot holes about Ben thinking he was the clone and doing it badly. Spidey and Gwen Stacy arrive. More dumb dialogue, trying to defuse a bomb. I hate this friggin' comic. Somehow we're on a bridge. I hate this comic. I hate it. I hate it.
Come on now, let's get together.
Go, Web, go!
And you've got
I'm the real Dr. Insano now! This is so deep. I am the walrus, Cuckoo-Cuckoo!
And will you marry me?
Wow, Southland Tales is so deep. So anyway, Gwen gets a gun and threatens to kill the Jackal, but then Mary Jane shows up, somehow knowing they're on a bridge, and Gwen gets shoved over the edge. And what should transpire, of course, but a retread of this "oh my god, Gwen is falling off the bridge, so I have to save her this time" crap, which even by this point in Spider-Man history had become a cliche. Hell, I think during the entire Clone Saga, they actually had somebody fall off that damn bridge like 3 times. Anyway, they save Clone Gwen, but the Jackal falls to his death in one of the most unintentionally hilarious panels ever made. Love that expression on his face. Oh, but we can't breathe a sigh of relief, because now we have one more big action sequence and... Wait, they're back on the roof of the Bugle? What the hell? Anyway, the bomb's still going to go off, so they need to throw it out into the water. You know, these last few pages could have been great to fill in some plot holes, maybe even just reduce the size of the book, but no, instead it had to be pointless stupidity. Oh, and the Gwen Stacy clone just walks off, never to be seen or heard from again. And you know what's even better? The entire point of this moronic storyline was to end the Clone Saga and decide who was going to be Spider-Man and tie up every loose end. Well, not only did it fail to do any of that, but it also... Well, actually, that's it! The Clone Saga continued for a year and a half afterwards, with only more ludicrous ideas, stories, and revelations to come. But that's the subject for another episode. Maximum Clonage sucks! If Smoke and Mirrors was the first sign that the Clone Saga was doomed, then Maximum Clonage clinched it. Every issue is dumb, nonsensical, boring, and overall just bad. The artwork ranges from good to hideous, and I've seen plot analyses of Lost that made more sense than this thing. But you know what the worst part is? I'd still take the worst moments of the Clone Saga over one more day. So happy anniversary, and here's to many more years of complaining about Spider-Man's deal with the devil.
Isn't it strange?